Hello, hello. Welcome back. It's been so
Hello.
long.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We missed you guys.
Couple of weeks.
Did you miss us? I miss you too. Aw, you're too cute. It's okay. It's okay. No problem. I'm Sim.
I'm Kevin.
He's Kevin. And you were still Sim and Kevin. Haven't changed and stuff. Welcome back. Really nice to have you, as always. Today we're touching on a really, really cool topic that, like, a lot of times you don't think about, but, like, the memory of the body.
Yeah, cellular memory of the body.
Okay, wait. Isn't memory here?
That's one place.
So what do you mean memory of the body?
Cellular memory. Have you ever had an experience where you've hurt yourself or you've had an accident and then all of a sudden, years later, you hit that area and it doesn't have to be injured, but it's impactful enough that it can draw back that memory? I'll give you a perfect example.
I can't say I can put a finger on it.
I'll give you an example. I had a motorcycle. Beautiful Harley I loved. The only time I ever dropped the bike. Okay? And, I was riding and I was on this hill and I had my wife at the time on the back and I was turning on this hill that was like this. It was just a huge incline.
Wow.
And I was thinking, you shouldn't be doing this, but okay, cool. And one of the pegs ended up jamming into my ankle, and it just really hurt. And interestingly enough, over the years, obviously I'd forgotten about it.
Yep.
And then there have been times that, boom, I hit that particular point, or a massage therapist does.
Yep.
It's an exact point, and the moment that place in the body is in my ankle, when they touch it, it's like, oh, and all of a sudden that memory comes right back. Mm-hmm. Instantaneous.
And it was healed. Like, technically speaking, it's healed.
Yeah.
That's the memory. So would you say the memory stored in the cells of your ankle? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. I believe that. Yeah, and I believe that particular memories, experiences, trauma is actually stored in the body, and in particular, the organs of the body.
Okay, so I know we have this this chart that we're going to share and post online that you guys can take a look at as well, but I've always been curious about that because the heart you can always feel. The heart has memories and like it's connected. Like my heart was broken and all those kind of things that we feel deeply with it. But you're saying all the organs have memory.
Yeah, they have memory and they store different events and different energies. Yeah.
Okay, and like so like what?
Like what?
Like what would store what?
It stores the memory. It stores the trauma, or
I mean, like so like heart stores heartbreak, I guess.
Well,
like
it can be heartbreak, but the way we look at it, or the way I look at it, when it comes to the heart, it usually means someone that's non-emotive, that doesn't really connect to the heart, doesn't really feel emotion, okay? And that usually shows up in a way that someone is very rapid speech.
Okay.
That you can see that they're just looking for the next thought and not feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. And it also, when it's a non-emotive nature like that, it can also do with the genitals.
Okay.
In both men and women. Okay, the ovaries and the testes. Same thing, and it's the same thing when you're talking about if people are having intimacy issues, sexuality. It's also, there's a connection. It's a lack of emotion, lack of intimacy and connection.
So you're saying like the non-emotive part of the memory is stored in the heart?
Yeah.
In the emotion itself is kind of stored in the heart too, right? Because you're going to feel it from the heart.
Sure, absolutely. You can feel from the heart. And normally when we're really engaging the heart, we feel this warmth in our chest.
Yeah.
So that's when we know it's open.
Yeah, and it's like that loving feeling, the like warmth.
You bet. And like a lot of times when I work with people, and they've shut their heart down, whether it's due to heartbreaks and whatever in life, oftentimes they feel a pain. They feel it can either be a sharp stabbing, it can be a compression, I've heard people say somebody's sitting on my chest, many, many different things. So yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced that for sure. Like, went through a breakup and kind of closed off and then you feel like there's a part of your ability to feel that's missing,
It's not really, it's missing from your conscious awareness. It's still there, but it's sort of covered up.
It's like subdued.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and it took me until the partner I have now that actually was able to see that and able to open that and really be able to kind of go in there and make you feel safe.
That's beautiful when you have a partner that can do that with you.
So how do you, first of all, how do you even find it? So okay, heart.
How do I find
heart's-
what? My heart?
It's
right here.
How do you find and where is it exactly located, and how do you talk to it? No, but heart's a pretty simple one. Not simple,
Yeah.
but like we all
Yeah.
feel the heart.
Yeah, heart's all about love.
Yeah, exactly. So, but
Yeah.
but what about the how do you? First of all, chronic injury is one thing that'll kind of show it to you. Or like
Yeah.
how would you describe that?
Well, when you say chronic injury, I mean, if you're talking about extremities,
Yeah.
oftentimes I look at it from a perspective of the masculine, feminine, moving forward, standing still.
Yeah.
Is it a giving or a receiving nature?
Okay.
Because the masculine energy, and we all have it, whether we're male or female,
Yep.
okay, man or woman.
Yep.
The masculine energy is always moving outward, okay?
Yep.
It's in a natural movement, in motion. Where the feminine is more of receptiveness, openness, communication. So it's more of a receiving, and it's usually associated to the left side of the body, where the masculine is much more to the right side of the body, energetically.
And that's energetically, but that's not saying like if you get hurt on your right hand side every single time it's masculine.
Well, no, there is a very direct correlation to both male or masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
For instance, a lot of times if you're really hurting the right side of your body, first question I'd ask someone is, what is it that you have a sense that you shouldn't be doing and you need to rest for a moment? And almost instantaneously they'll go, yeah, God, I know what that is.
Like you're just going too much at it.
Going too hard, too much,
yeah.
too fast, trying to accumulate too much, whatever. And the body, can get injured. And again, sometimes it may just be, I just did something really silly.
Yeah.
But if it's really chronic, it's usually tied to that. And it's always amazing because when I talk to people about it and I'm sharing with them, they're like, oh my God, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it becomes obvious.
Yeah, it strikes the truth. It strikes a chord.
It's where is that line? This is what we were discussing earlier. Like, where's that line of like it just happened to it? This is something that is tied to that, or how would you feel into that?
If it's just something you do occasionally, like you stub your toe and you're at night and it's dark and you're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
Yeah, like I'm pumping iron and then I end up like hurting my right hand side. It's
Well,
like,
that's something different.
that's very
yeah.
masculine of me. I hurt my right hand side
Well,
by
sure.
lifting too much weight I shouldn't have been lifting in the first place.
Yeah, it can be right side and both sides actually that you
Yeah.
could damage that. But yeah.
So that's that's the energetic side of things. But what I'm seeing is we're seeing like you can see each organ is
Yeah.
kind of tied to a certain type of memory. How does that
Memory and emotion.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead and pick one. So let's just say like
Like thyroid.
okay, thyroid.
Yeah. The throat.
Okay, and what does it say?
Muddled thinking, paranoia, emotional instability, up and downs, and adrenals.
I also look at the thyroid. I also look at the throat chakra when we're talking about the chakras in the body.
Yep.
The crown, the third eye, the throat. Oftentimes, the throat is affected due to you not speaking your truth.
Right.
Something that's held within.
Yep.
Okay. It can also be because we're not really clear in what we want. Okay, that's where we're talking about muddled.
Right.
Okay, there's no clarity. I can't speak it. I'm confused. So it's also a sign.
Is it the muddled kind of the non-clarity and the block, the not being able to express yourself that causes the issue, or is it the issue that causes the ability to not be able to connect?
Sometimes it's the cart leads the horse and the horse leads the cart. I mean, it all depends.
Yeah.
And it really, whenever I'm working with someone, I act as a guide and sort of an investigative reporter kind of a thing.
Yep.
Asking them questions, connecting it to it, what's going on in your life. And almost inevitably, there's always a correlation.
Yep.
And they'll go, oh, I get it, okay.
And I think in my experience, the way I've seen it is mostly it tends to be, or I've seen it be, some kind of like childhood experience or something that we've held on to, and then you kind of build it up over time, and then eventually you're just carrying all this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like we've talked about before. It's cumulative.
Yeah.
That generally something happens for most of us from the age of 6 to 10.
Right.
Is usually where the trauma occurs. Okay. And then it's cumulative. It keeps getting repeated.
Yep.
Why? Because we're a child. And as a child, who do we love and who do we adore as God? Or that single source or multiple source of love. Our mother, our father, those who are close to us.
Yeah.
So what we do is we integrate that experience, equating that to love, a form of love. So what we do, if quite often, if our parents don't love us the way we want to, we'll sort of begin to feel something's off, but we can't articulate it. And a lot of times what will happen is it will go into, like, for instance, like into the belly. If someone's really not paying attention to you and they really literally abandon you and ignore you, where do you feel it? In the gut.
Yeah.
Normally in the small intestines.
Yeah.
Okay, is generally where we'll pick that up. So yeah, it's great. The organs, I love it. I love working with them.
And so that's where you have these things like gut feeling.
Yeah,
and
here.
I don't
Go ahead and read it. Go ahead and read a couple of those at the bottom.
This is what we're going to share. I hope you guys can see.
It's kind of hard to see with the light reflecting off of it.
But it's like we have like for the heart. It's like I don't have the heart for that. That's a very that galls me. That's for the gallbladder.
Oh, gallbladders, resentment. Yeah.
I can't stomach that. That's like the disgust.
Yeah, you have digestive issues.
Yeah, and like that pissed me off. That pisses me off.
Yeah.
That's
It's your kidneys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hard to breathe. That one.
Yeah, lungs.
So is that why it physically happens when you're in that grief stage and you can't breathe?
Bingo.
It's like manifesting it literally physically in your.
Bingo.
And so how much of it is because I also feel like sometimes we cause it.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
Like if you're scared and if you're in a state of panic or you're in a state of fear.
Perfect example.
Okay.
What does your breathing do when you're in a state of fear?
Like it speeds up and it gets
Not necessarily.
Tighter? No?
Usually contracts.
Okay.
If you're afraid, we usually contract. That's why I tell people when I'm doing work with them, any kind of therapy work, when they're starting to feel something, the first thing I'll share with them is breathe. Deep breathe it. Move through this energy because it's an emotion, more than likely. It is not who you are. You're experiencing it for one reason or another. But the key to it is breath work. Move the energy. Let it come through you.
And especially nowadays, like with the stuff that's going on around, the fear kind of just builds up over time, and then you become more and more kind of constricted.
Closed off.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so in that situation, breathing, deeper breathing and relaxing would be one of the things. But how would you truly release it from the organ? What's the
is releasing the trauma, reframing it, seeing it with a different set of eyes. Like for instance, every experience we've ever had that we believe is related to some kind of trauma, we saw it through one particular lens.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
That lens was shown to us more than likely by our parents, okay? Or by someone that was really close to us.
Yeah.
But when we get enough perspective, we really see what it is. And when I say when we get enough perspective is whether we go to therapy, we go to someone, a good friend that can help us see what it's about, okay? Then we can begin to see the trauma, the experience with a whole new set of eyes. And what I mean by that is, let me give you an example. Why don't you give me an example? Give me an example of something that was traumatic for you that you don't view it to be traumatic today.
Okay, so like, I was left in a pantry as a child.
Okay.
When I was I think it was 1 or 2.
Okay.
And I have this memory of the world was bright, I was on my mom's hip, and then everything went dark and there was a sliver of light. And then I was a baby, so I leaned over to my side, I looked through the sliver and I saw her walking away. And that was something super traumatic.
Yeah, abandonment.
Yeah,
huge.
It's huge, right? But I remember even at that time thinking like, wow, even as a baby thinking like, well, this is interesting. Apparently that happens. Sometimes it's bright and then it just gets dark and then like you just got to figure your shit out. And that actually, it drove my life where I've tried to be independent and everything. But now looking back again, like doing a lot of inner work on it, I've seen it in that like, well, that's what makes me who I am today.
Okay.
And it's a huge part of me.
Did you ever think at one point or one period of time that it was somehow your mother just abandoned you, left you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I had resentment against her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, and that's where I'm talking about reframing. And oftentimes the only way we can really see it, because there's one thing to release it from the head and the mind, it's a whole nother thing to release it from the heart. And it's usually through forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness work.
Okay, so forgiveness, first of all, seeing it.
Seeing it. And then when I say forgiveness, a lot of times it's about forgiving yourself for buying into the misbelief that my mother should have been any different than what she was. She was who she was. I interpreted it
Yeah.
as terrible. But what I heard you also say was, I saw this sliver of light.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that, well, like, you know, like, sometimes it just goes dark, but then there's some light in it through it, and then you can like kind of like look through it. And I remember trying to process it and think like, well, okay, so this is something to learn. There's something to be learned from it. And like I feel like the forgiveness part I'm still going through today, where I'm still working on that and trying to focus on that. And until I'd really, and I'm like I said, I'm still working on it, but until I'd focused on it, it was manifesting itself in so many other parts of my life.
You bet.
It was in unnoticeable ways where I would have that resentment pop up
Subconsciously.
Yeah. And then like repeating patterns of behavior, and I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of it was like self-harm almost.
Yeah,
You know?
it usually is.
So like so those things are tied up in the organs themselves,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And then like
Fear is the kidneys. That's why some people urinate a lot. The adrenals are worn out, whatever.
And where's like abandonment?
Abandonment is the small intestines.
I've had a upset stomach for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I came to Bali and ate nasi jingo, and at that point, the rice fixed me right up. That's the solution.
Yeah. You know, but when I say self-forgiveness, first of all, and this is some of the work that I do, is I ask the client to write a statement. I forgive myself for buying into the belief or misbelief that my mother should have done something any different. Okay? And then it normally will progress to, I forgive my mother.
Yeah.
I forgive my mother.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's first about forgiving myself, then forgiving my mother. And then what happens usually is you come to this state, it's like, wow. And ultimately, you will come to a state that says, none of this was trauma. This was all love asking me to see at greater depths.
See, now that's deep.
Yeah, I mean,
when you start to see it as love asking me to see it, can you go a little deeper into that? Like,
sure. I think I shared this in one of our podcasts. I've been through before I say this, most of us, probably 97% of the human population, has lived in a dysfunctional family.
You mean just a family?
Family.
Yeah, exactly.
Dysfunctional in some way.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, if we've all lived in a dysfunctional family, ultimately, what is it really teaching us? You know? It's teaching us to go beyond the dysfunctionality, see it as a gift that was given, and to reframe it. But where I was going with this was, give you a perfect example. I've been to hell and back. I grew up, I won't even begin to tell you what I saw as a child. I mean, some serious trauma. And beautiful thing is, I could have really been messed up. I could have been really, drugs, all sorts of things, but by the grace, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And all of the experiences that I've had, from near death to you name it, all of these experiences, and by the way, they're not all pleasant and fun and beautiful. The after effects.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, and I shared this story not too long ago, that there was a moment that I was doing an interview. And in that interview, I just started to tear up. This is when I know wisdom is coming.
Okay.
It's a moment of grace.
Yeah.
And in that moment of all of these experiences that were extremely painful, I knew how much I was loved in order to be given those in the first place. To see it in such a panoramic, beautiful view. And my whole perspective, once again, shifted even more into a panoramic view, as opposed to just seeing it, myopically.
And so like, you had basically like a revelatory kind of experience with it.
Yeah, I've had many.
Right? Where it gets shifted, and I can say a similar thing where when I started looking towards it, initially I was holding on to it as this like, it was the kind of like the dark part, and I was looking at it as like, well, I was almost looking back, and I was still living it.
Yeah, you were.
I was holding it again and again.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I like made it like, well, oh no, this number one, it's done, it's gone.
Yeah.
Secondly, I started almost appreciating it and started looking at it as like as a part of who I am today. And if that didn't
Absolutely.
happen, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Absolutely.
And like as far as ongoing work to actually release it, because everybody can't just have a revelatory experience.
Yeah.
Is it like you would work with somebody and then slowly you would go into it and kind of open that box again and again?
Absolutely. I would open it up with them. And one of the things I'd like to share, a little bit of a caveat, is, oh shoot, I was going to say something and I just kind of, it'll come back.
You got lost from your organs, man.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. I call it a spiritual bypass. Okay? And what I mean by that is when someone says, yeah, I get it, I understand it, it's all okay now.
Yeah.
That's still up here. Because when it happens here, a whole different level of energy happens. It's the true knowing. And I've sort of have a phrase that I use, that wisdom is when the head and heart gather as one, understanding the experience. See, this understands what this is trying to share.
Yeah.
And then you get it. It's wrapped into this beautiful, divine little moment of grace.
And so where did you when did you get cued onto this idea of
the body holding memory, cellular memory, and trauma? Oh, probably 20-something years ago. And then when I started working with James Barnett, he's the one that kind of introduced me to it. And I'd heard, this over the years, if you've been on this kind of journey, a lot of us talk about this. At least there were a few of us in the beginning that we talk about the masculine, the feminine, all of this, and cellular organs. And now, Louise Hayes, there's many, many people, speakers and people who have delved into this very deeply and spiritually, also have their versions of it, and there's a lot of similarities between all of them.
Yeah, but still differing viewpoints.
Subtle nuances, subtle differences. Yeah.
And so this is just organs, but we also discussed chakras.
Yeah, chakras and the masculine, feminine. Chakras, as we know, we have 7. It's also believed that there are 9 in the ankle and behind the knees.
Like 100 or something.
Yeah, there's 120 actually, the nadis. But that's a whole nother conversation. It's too much for what we're talking about now. But yeah, we have basically 7 energy centers in the body. Top of the head, forehead, throat, heart, 3 below. Mm-hmm. No coincidence that we have 3 below the heart and 3 above the heart. The heart being the key, the window. Yeah. Okay, it's the portal, I believe, and through that portal of the heart, it is the feeling state. That's how we release trauma, no matter where it is in the body. I believe that this is sort of the gateway, because when someone releases something, almost inevitably, it's always this warmth in the heart. Yeah. That love is now expanded a little bit more because we aren't contracted. Okay.
And so the heart is kind of involved in most of the processes anyway, because it is the feeling center for us.
Yeah,
it's kind of what we feel through. And I've always felt like, the gut is like, you feel it in the gut as well. But the heart is like is the most kind of feeling part of us.
The heart, I believe, is the window to the soul. It is our connection to source. Okay? And the source is love. Everything that is created in this universe and all universes was created from that field of energy.
And once you connect with it, because for me it felt like as soon as I started listening, everything started being told. I didn't have to, obviously I was guided towards it. Again, I had a great partner who was actually able to show me, like, hey, have you looked in this direction? And it was kind of cool. Like, she actually did like a remote Reiki, and then she was like, oh, well, everything else was fine, but I saw these 3 things. Yeah. And she described to me the 3 traumas of my life in visual form, exactly. Yep. And I never told her anything. And I was like, okay, this is insane. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. She's like, yeah, just, that's a little bit in the heart, a little bit here, just go in and fix that. Yeah. But as soon as I started feeling it, as soon as I started actually like cueing into it, it just started to kind of bubble up. And more and more stuff gets revealed to you. And it's almost like for me at least, it felt like it was coming out of my organs into my heart. Yep. And then my brain was able to process it.
Exactly.
It was actually able to think about it.
Exactly, because you can't get there through the head. Yeah. The head will understand what it needs to understand when it's time. But the heart can process anything.
And so where does the subconscious lie in all that? Because there are a lot of kind of things stored in the subconscious, and
Yeah.
they collaborate with the stuff that's stored in the organs.
Yeah. So the subconscious is that part of us that is always just slightly beneath our conscious awareness of what's happening. Okay. Where is it stored? I've done work in Italy where, you use the head and you map the brain, and there's exercises you can do. You can literally feel it, sense it. It could be behind you. It's really hard to say exactly where it is.
Yeah.
It's
not like it's like one place specifically.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a field of energy that has been hidden from us.
Yep.
For one reason or another. Okay, memories hidden from us for one reason or another. I believe the ego is a good thing, unless it's out of control. It's a good thing. And the reason why I say that is because in many situations, it learns something.
Okay.
It's working to keep you safe from that happening again, most often.
Yep.
It's only when we come to that state of awareness that something isn't working, that we know that we repeat a pattern of behavior, that then the ego is really masking something that really needs to come to the conscious awareness.
I always thought the ego is the thing that's causing us to behave like that.
Could be.
Right.
If it's out of balance, if we're really stuck in our ego from the perspective that I'm great, I'm wonderful, the world evolves around me, that's something very different. Okay? But when we're talking, that's the ego. But when we're talking about the subconscious, I believe, isn't good or bad.
Right.
It simply is sort of a field that holds particular experiences and energy, that its desire is to not give us that pain again.
It's a protective mechanism.
To some degree, absolutely. I believe that, yes.
And so why do we store the memories in the organs then? Is that some kind of protective mechanism too?
Why do we have this beautiful gift called the body?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out for a long time.
I'll tell you what I believe.
It's really fun.
I believe that this body has been given to us as a gift, as an apparatus to be in this environment.
To experience it.
Absolutely. If you're of the belief, and this is my belief, that if creation is all-knowing, all-perfect, in the sense of all wholeness, and continually expanding into universes and multiverses beyond that, how does it experience itself? It sends itself out and says, here, you have free will. Yeah. Here, you have this body. Here, you're in this dimension. You create. Is it life-giving or not life-giving?
So there's the interdimensional aspect of it.
Yeah, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's one way of kind of seeing it.
Yeah.
Then I'm also thinking, is there intergenerational aspect of it as well?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, because there's a phrase that we use in the First Nations and in indigenous cultures in North America, and it is mitakwaya oyasin.
Okay.
Mitakwaya oyasin means that, particularly when we go into ceremony, okay, very, very deep, profound ceremony. One in particular was called a purification lodge. And when we go into the doorway of that lodge, we get on our hands and knees, crawl in backwards, because we believe we're crawling back into the mother, back into the womb.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Very safe and sacred place.
Yeah.
So mitakwaya oyasin, we invoke that prayer. And what it means is, I call out to all of my relatives who have come before me, all who shall come after me. Please be with me right now and help me to see what I need to see, to release what I need to release, to enter into a greater state of love. And I can tell you from my own experience and experiences with many, many people that I've worked with, I can see energetically that exact moment when it happens with an individual. You can literally see this field of energy, this sense that someone just, I get it. And when it happened to me, it's like, I don't feel it's connected to anyone behind me anymore.
It's like the cord's cut.
It's absolutely what it is. Yeah. And that's another way of sort of trying to get to it, is to cut cords. But that's a whole nother.
So like that kind of, for me, it kind of ties into the idea of genetic memory and
Yeah,
storing
you
it in
bet.
our DNA that we're going to pass
Yeah.
on to generations. And that's all kind of part of this, because I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer in that, in the physical sense, we are just one big liquid crystal computer, basically,
Yeah.
that stores,
We're all interconnected
yeah.
energetically.
And then that's our internet. We're like
Yeah.
connected to it. I'm a
Yeah.
geek, so like I have to talk about
Yeah.
technology. Yeah.
Source is all and everything and nothing. It's everything
Yeah.
and nothing. So if we're all part of it, there is an individual sense of consciousness, and there is a collective sense, and then there is source.
And I feel like that part it's in today's world, we've disconnected from that oneness, the connectedness. Like the ancients and looking back into mythology and what we call mythology, they were so much more connected. They could feel things so much. Even just they were connected with the environment, but also connected with themselves. And the world, as the world's going, we're being turned more into this like siloed, individual only pieces, and we're losing connection. Or at least I feel like we're losing connection with that, with source.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it. There's another way of looking at it as well, to reframe it. We talked about it earlier. If I really want to know where I am today, as I go out into the world experience, I do different things. I may destroy things. It's part of my experience. And then I come back with a greater sense of knowing that now I really, truly know, with every essence of my being, all of those experiences I needed.
So if I understand correctly, it's like moving away from the concept of oneness is what allows us to then go back and see.
How do you know how good is unless you know what bad is?
Yeah, that's true. That's why so many people are waking up now. So that's why we've gone deep down the rabbit hole of this like individual I'm everything.
And by the way, we chose it. We chose it.
Maybe you chose it. I didn't choose any of that stuff. I'm all source, bro.
At least that's what I believe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, of course.
Makes for a good story.
Yeah, and like that's where it's that not looking at it as good or bad.
Yeah.
It isn't good. It isn't bad. We went away from that idea. Now we're coming back to it. And now there's like a huge swing. So many people are waking up across the world, and it's all the same message. Like we are all one.
Yeah, we're one. We're source. We're co-creating with one another.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, is because when we begin to release those traumas, those energies that we hold, and we release them, what does it allow us? It allows us more love. It allows us a clean canvas to begin to create and paint from a new place and a state of being, as opposed to doing, which is a whole nother conversation.
So then it's not just negative memories that are stored inside in your organs.
No.
It's all positive ones too.
Absolutely, why not?
Yeah, just fill it up with all the positive stuff.
It's just usually we are more motivated by a negative experience.
And we hold on to it so hard.
And you think about it, we can do 1,000 really good deeds, but we do one bad. Guess what we're going to hold on to?
That one haunts you. That one haunts you. Yeah. And so why is that?
Why is that? I think that's because it's part of our conditioning. It's, the part of the conditioning has been that whenever something usually good happens, there's that old saying, when's the other shoe going to drop? In other words, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
Spleen, worthiness.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I of value in this world? Again, where did we learn that message? We learned it from someone who held on to some dysfunctional idea. And when I say dysfunctional, it was just their level of understanding.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beauty, is the gift that we have now, the ability. We have the time. We have the energy. We have the people now.
And the knowledge.
Yeah. It's always been there. But when you really look at, like, for instance, my father's generation, his generation, they were busy, just trying to live and exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Where now we've come to a state where we can live and exist quite well. And we've come to the question, really, is this all there is? 9 to 5? Am I going to make another million or $1 billion? Or it's like, okay.
Yeah.
No. Then we stop and take a step back and we ask ourselves, what's really important? And that's where I think what's happening in the world now, the big C, is it is actually a reset that has been given to us to say, wait a minute.
Yep.
We've been going like a freight train towards a big, huge brick wall. And what's happening now is we've been asked, it's time to stop. slow down, and ask from your heart, what's important?
And we wouldn't have done it otherwise.
No.
You need a crisis to be like, okay, well, now I guess I'll start looking inside.
Unfortunately, for the human race, that's usually what motivates us, is a crisis, a big trauma. But I believe that we're entering into the state of the new earth, which I call heaven on earth, that I don't believe that we have to create such trauma. And I believe that we can create a world, I don't want to say euphoria or utopia, but a state where we're more conscious in terms of what we're creating and why and what are the results.
And is that so? That consciousness is coming from us looking within and healing the stuff that we already have, and then also learning and you know, like you said, learning from someone who's been there, done that, and you're able to kind of skip some.
I'm going to share something that many people, from a religious perspective, would say it's blasphemy. Hang him, shoot him, kill him.
Yep.
But I was, and I didn't know I was doing it. It was a channeling that was coming through me. And I was writing. It was when I was writing my book. And in the 9 pages of what I wrote, what I termed or viewed as God was communicating through me and with me. Said, Kevin, you have it all wrong. You think I'm this all-divine, knowing, supreme source that has all the answers. I do. But I don't know it unless it comes through you and that which is created. I know myself.
Oh, damn.
See? If creation itself wants to experience itself in all dimensions, all universes, and science has proven it has literally, the universes are continually expanding.
Right.
Okay? You know, and when I read that, and I still read it, it's 10 years later, I read it and it just really sends it home. We are all co-creating with Source, and Source itself is learning.
So we are the way the Source even feels and experiences.
And when you say we, I don't mean human-centric. I mean everything, from that air conditioner to those curtains to these lighting, to all forms and walks of life, trees, waters, flower, everything has been created.
Okay, so that actually, I have 2 things I want to bring up.
Sure.
One is, so then memory is also stored in those things.
Why not? Water has memory. Every indigenous nation believes, like in Lakota and the Northern Plains, is Minwachoni.
Yep.
Water is life. In the Cherokee, we say Ama Govinda. Interesting enough that many of the words in many of the indigenous cultures are also Hindu. There's a very similar, but that's another beautiful conversation, because one of the things is that I've understood that the more that you delve into all things, there are more similarities.
Yeah, they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
They just figured out a different way to hum it.
That's why creation said, you want to know what this path is, so take it. You want to know what that path is, so take it.
Yeah, you'll find them all the way.
Yeah.
So the second thing I wanted to ask was like, there's the memories of our experience that are in the body, but it sounded like there's also external kind of, you're getting messages.
Collective consciousness.
Yeah. Where's that coming from?
And I'm going to refer to that as archetypes.
What do you mean?
Archetypes are, there are 22 major arcana are archetypes that was kind of coined by Jungian, that said that on this planet there are a certain number of archetypes, which is a basic structure that the human being acts.
Okay.
Whether it's the goddess, why am I drawing a blank? But there are ways to sort of categorize the way that we act and behave. Okay? And we can have a couple of them or multiple, but generally we have a core of what we're trying to or wanting to experience up until now. Because I believe now that there are those who no longer need that.
What changed?
What changed?
Yeah.
It's because we are now coming into the realization that we are creation itself. We don't need those levels of understanding anymore. We are now elevating, and why didn't even say elevating, expanding in consciousness that says we can now create whatever we want, heaven on earth, whatever it is we want.
And we can be all of it.
Yes. All of it and none of it.
I knew you were going to say that. All of it and none of it. You can't say all of it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, so, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was going to say, like, so now, you know, let's say I'm a person who just heard about this.
Yeah.
You know, and I would love to start somewhere. Well, what should I do to start tuning into
into what? Keep going. Yep.
Like, you know, like I've lived life, and I thought memories were all just up here. And then now I'm like, okay, well, apparently there's these memories that are stored in my body. And like, actually, before we go into that, I want to also ask, like, you know, then there's also things like chronic back pain. Like, I have this thing when I have stress, I get this one back that tightens up.
Can you go back? And what I would end up doing in terms of working with you, I'd have you go back to a regression, or have you go into a closing your eyes, going back into that muscle, feeling it, and trying to reconnect to the first time you heard it and what was going on. See, because what happens is oftentimes there is a point of trauma that something happens. And it's like you just described, it can be related to a muscle, something happens. And then whenever subconsciously or unconsciously you start doing, or that is triggered again, it'll go right to that spot, cellular memory.
So as you were saying that, I thought through it, and that was my, like, you know, that was my first biggest breakup. That was, I dated for 10 years, and then we broke up, and it was a very traumatic thing. And I was working in like a call center at the time, and I chalked it up to I'm sitting down too much. And it got tight. And it did not release for like 4 years, no matter what I would do, electrolysis, all this stuff. And then I started even doing physio and exercises. And then I came to Bali, and it released.
Okay, why? What did you understand, and what level of awareness did you reach to release it?
That's a good question. I'm not cognizant of, you know, what exactly I did to it. I think it was also, it was going into my current relationship and actually loosening up and actually being able to love, or at least that's how I see it. You know, and like now.
So you changed a belief or a pattern.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I was actually able to. I told myself that I wasn't able to love, and then I changed that to like, no, I am able to love, and this is how it is to love.
Bingo.
You know, and is that okay? So now let's say I'm somebody in that situation. Okay. I have these chronic things that show up.
Sure.
And like, you know, I just want to tune into it. Where would I start? What would you recommend as kind of the step one?
Probably step one, and the easiest would be to do, is to go sit somewhere where it's quiet and you can really tune inward. Okay? And like for you, you shared it was a point in your back. Is I would ask someone just to sit, and if they feel it, just feel it. Be present with it. Don't make it right or wrong. Don't fight it. Don't judge it. Don't, oh, God, it's back again. And then you're in this rabbit hole. Just simply meet it. Just feel it. And sit with it for a bit and ask it, what do you need?
Okay.
What are you trying to tell me? What is present that I don't yet see? And sometimes I'll also say something to the effect that I need help. I don't know how to do this. It's amazing what happens, because universal law says all we have to do is ask, but we have to ask, okay? And just sit with it. It may not happen the first time, but it's just like we just did this in just a few seconds about your back, and you're like, oh man, I knew immediately it was a relationship. That I couldn't be loved.
Yeah, and before that it wasn't happening,
And now you entered a relationship that allowed that to release, and in that releasing, it gave you the information, I'm lovable way beyond what I think I am.
And now it's never been tight ever again.
Exactly, because you've let that old belief, and that cellular memory is now gone.
So even though I didn't go in there and I connect with it, and as soon as I got rid of the memory, it got released by itself.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The memory is key, is to bring that forward. And sometimes you have to nourish it, nurture it, okay?
Nurture the memory?
No, nurture that place. I mean, if you're having problems with it, get it massaged. Have someone lovingly just place their hand on it and just place there, and just, it's just the energy of love. You know, someone else caring, okay? It can be that simple. So But for someone that's trying to figure out if they have something that's chronic, and something that happens, reoccurs all the time, is first just sit with it. What's going on? Mm-hmm. What do you need? What is this about? And then, if the message isn't coming, then you ask, I need help. Please bring the event, the person, experience, someone to help me understand this. Mm. Okay? Because sometimes we can't get it.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of times, you have to be really cued into that feeling.
It takes a little bit of a development. Yeah. When people first start doing it, oftentimes if it's chronic pain or something, we just get angry. Oh, it's back again. And then you just locked it into anger.
Yeah.
Isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So
then you'll probably develop something else.
It's about surrendering to what is and being with it. Mm-hmm. And it's a form of what we call Gestalt, where if there's something happening in the body within the particular part of the body, is to place your awareness there, place a hand on it, and just feel it. Connect to it. What does it want? What does it need? What's going on? If it could describe, it could be a color, it could be a word, it could be many things to give a description. It's just to try and tease it out. And like you were talking about earlier, I believe that there's this animating part of us that we refer to as the soul. It is our connection to creation energetically. And what I have found out over the years is that once we open that state of awareness, it's our best friend. It's been waiting for us the whole time, eternity.
Yeah.
And it's saying, great, now I'll give you more. You're ready. Because, and it isn't necessarily even that they'll give us more, that aspect of us. We're now aware of it. Because I could tell you many times I was still on the off-ramp and stuff was coming to me, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But once we open that doorway, and the opening is, first and foremost, change your belief system, that this is hogwash, this is baloney, this doesn't work.
Exactly. It doesn't even exist.
Yeah, because there's a resistance, and when you have resistance, you can't hear it. It's about vulnerability and surrendering to it, okay, and just being with it. Okay.
And believe it. Believe that this is possible. This is something there. Sit with it. Lean into it. Try to listen to it. If you can't, try to find some help. Yeah,
try and find some help. It could be someone that you respect and love as a real deep wisdom figure in your life. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It can be a mother, a father, an uncle, an auntie, somebody who you really love and trust. Go sit with them and share with them from your heart what's going on. It's amazing what happens.
So actually, that actually kind of brought me into cancer is a huge thing in society right now.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people, they've had cancer and they changed their mindset, their viewpoint, something, and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
So that can also be seen as in some cases, cellular
absolutely
dysfunction. Memories.
Absolutely. Everything in the universe is frequency and vibration.
Of course. Yeah.
The Rife machine, which was taken out years ago by modern science, they cured several kinds of cancer by the use of frequency.
Yep.
Because these viruses, these cancers, these anomalies that happen in the body, what happens is a couple of things. One is the body's too acidic. The other is that there's a vibration or frequency that's out of balance. Okay? And once you find the counter frequency, it can be destroyed. It can be eradicated.
Yeah.
Okay? But when you look at Big Pharma, do you think they want that? Their $1 trillion industry of giving you drugs for everything you have. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there that are probably doing good. But generally speaking, if you are profit-driven, it's one purpose. Yeah. How do we make more money for our shareholders?
Okay? Yeah, especially if there's like something simple like frequencies, which could just fix the problem completely. And sorry, go ahead. When you're saying frequencies, you also mean like changing your frequency yourself.
Absolutely.
You can control these things, right?
When I first learned this, I was on an airplane going from Sedona to LAX doing my master's in transpersonal psychology. And I will never forget, I was on the airplane and something happened. I was reading an article.
Yeah.
And I always knew it, that disease in our body, if you break it down, dis-ease.
Yeah.
Okay? Not disease, dis-ease. There's a vibratory frequency, there's a trauma, there's something that we're physically holding on to that doesn't belong, okay? Doesn't mean we aren't eating food that's got so many chemicals and water that's polluted and
or
chemicals.
asbestos.
Yeah, there's so many external factors that can also influence that, okay?
Yep.
But generally when we're talking about energetics, we're holding on to some vibratory force that creates a melody in the body. And when someone comes to that point, that aha moment, that I get, oh my God, I know why I have it. It releases, it's gone. I've known a number of people who went through the process and the things that I do. There is no cancer. Complete remission. How did that happen?
Yeah.
They go in and the doctor, oh, this is a miracle. This can't happen. What do you mean it can't happen? Why not? Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's again, what I said earlier, the first step is to open a closed mind. Is it possible?
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Is it possible? And if the answer is somewhere in there, well, maybe you just shifted your whole paradigm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No, this has added so much value to me. I know this is going to add a lot of value to people's lives. Just being able to, like you said, just see it, see at least the possibility that something like this could exist. Then when you allow that to kind of flourish in your mind, it'll start to, at least for me, it started to show things that just made sense. It just made sense. Like, well, that makes sense. Why that keeps happening again and again. Yeah. And then as you accept it, as you kind of are able to reframe it, as you're almost able to see it as love, then it becomes a positive thing. And then over time, the physical part of it releases, right? But also the memory of that you've been holding on to as like this was the worst thing that ever happened to me turns into like a beautiful memory.
Yeah. You know? I mean, how loved could I have been to have gone through such trauma?
See, that's
to see its beauty.
That's the thing. That's a difficult sentence to even understand. How loved could I have been to have gone through this trauma?
How loved am I?
Am I?
Yeah, it's present tense.
Yeah,
it's present tense. And that's really, once we come to that point in life, and don't get me wrong, we're still human, we still feel, we'll still be happy, we'll still be sad, we'll still be all of these things.
Yeah.
But once you taste that sense of divinity, that inner knowing, nothing is the same.
No, you definitely can't forget it. There's no unknowing it.
No, you can't undo it.
Yeah.
You can't undo it.
And so that's why it's also like, looking at what's going on right now, it's more and more people are waking up to that. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing. It's just, it's like, what's going on is going on, but like, look at the beauty of what you've seen. And look at how many people across the world are waking up to all of this stuff. And then we're infecting each other with this divinity, I
don't know if you've ever heard or seen the 100 monkey theory.
No.
Well, in a nutshell, and you can look it up, it's 100 monkey theory, that there were scientists that were actually, and I believe it was Southeast Asia, there were 2 islands. And on one island, they were teaching the monkeys how to wash and clean the fruit, the coconuts or the bananas and so forth, whatever it was. I don't remember specifically the fruit. And interestingly enough, they were showing one island of these primates. As soon as it got to a certain point, they were also observing them on another island. They didn't communicate with one another.
Of course.
The moment they reached a certain point, everyone knew how to do it. So there was no teaching.
So they transmitted the memory.
Yes. They transmitted the information, because if everything is vibration and frequency, I mean, people can do remote viewing, can see other parts of the world, other parts of the universe, and it's been proven. Yeah. So that there's so much more here.
And so honestly, that's been one of my, because I'm a very proof guy. Like, give me the proof, right?
Yeah.
So for me, when I was looking into all of this, Nassim Haramein, I think we've talked about it before.
Nassim,
he's scientifically gone into the fundamentals of how the remote viewing, what the mathematics of how it literally works.
It's quantum. It's quantum physics.
And it's controlled by consciousness. And when you bring that in, it explains all of science, all of theology, all of life, and all of existence.
Yeah.
Other than that, he doesn't know much.
But I mean, that's really it in a nutshell. Is that waking up simply means we are coming into a greater understanding of our relationship to all that is. We're coming into a greater understanding, and that we individually and collectively co-create.
Yeah, because we're all one and we're all nothing.
Yeah, we're all of the same substance.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave it at that. I feel like that's enough profoundness for the day.
A good cutting point.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for always bringing the profoundness. I really love this.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Hope you guys have an amazing day, an amazing week. We'll see you soon.
Beautiful day, beautiful night. Thank you.